Hello Solana, my name's Chris Wilson, and in this video, we will connect to the Solana Devnet cluster. Step 1. Connect to the Solana Devnet cluster. In the blue rectangle here is where it says Start Here. We want to click on the View Step Instructions, and this will open up another tab with the instructions for that step. Connecting with @solana/web3.js. Using the Solana Web3.js library is a convenient way to interface with the RPC API when building a JavaScript application. Under the hood, Solana Web3.js implements Solana RPC's methods and exposes them as JavaScript objects. The documentation for the library can be found by following this link. We will explore it together as we add features to our app. The first thing we need to do is connect to the Solana blockchain. The JS library exposes a class for this named Connection. It has a constructor that will return a connection instance on which you can call a long list of methods. They're on the right-hand bar of this under connections. This is the long list of methods here under connection. Now this brings us to the challenge. In src/component/connect.jsx, implement get connection by creating a connection instance and getting the API's version. And then when we do that, we can hit save and it will render it automatically on the React app, which is pretty neat. So down here, we have the challenge. So first we're going to want to go ahead and make this a little bit easier on ourselves. All right. I know it's a little crunchy now, but hopefully this helps us out a little bit. All right. So we want to locate src/component/connection. So here's src components connect. And if we scroll in here, we can see the challenge matches with that part of the code. If you're a wizard and can figure this out without any help or hints, please drop a comment below. I would love to know how many people could do this without viewing the solution. However, if you're like me, needing some help, we can get a hint by clicking on the link below the challenge right here. This link takes us to the constructor section of the Solana docs. So let's have a poke around and see what we can glean. Under constructor, we see new connection, and we're going to want to add that to our code. So let's look at its definition for more context. We can do that by clicking here. And we know it's going to be new connection. So we can go ahead and go Control F to search this example and go new connection. Const connection equals new connection and followed by a URL. Well, if we look back over here at our app, we can see that we are importing the URL already. And if we control click, we can see that that's in utils and there's the Devnet URL. So we don't need to add our URL. So let's go ahead and copy this bit. I'm thinking this goes under here. So we'll put Control V and we can go ahead and take out the URL and just put URL. And now if we control click URL, yep, it goes to the URL and then it will go to get node URL RPC. And right there is the RPC URL. Perfect. Looking at lines 16 and 2 over here, we can see that the URL in our code is a string. The string will call it from utils, and we can use this instead of copy pasting the URL everywhere we need it. Now we can move on to get API version. Now that we know the process of hunting for answers, we can click on the link to the documents for the next clue. Here we see get version. We can click on the definition to see an example. And going back, we can see that this is a promise. We know that this will be a connection const, so we can go ahead and put connection.getVersion under line 20 where it's commented. Connection, because that's the const, and then get version, like that. See, that's how it has it. Again, looking back at the Solana docs, we can see that get version is returning a promise. Calling a promise will start in a pending state, which means that the calling function continues executing while the promise is pending until it resolves. The promise will eventually end in a resolved state or rejected state, calling the respective callback functions when passed to .then and .catch methods upon finishing. Knowing this, we can see that we need to add .then and .catch methods to avoid a callback loop. But how do we do that, you might be asking? Well, let's go back to the definitions and let's use Control F to search for .then. Okay, so we have .then for X. If X, then X does this. Okay, and then .catch. If this, then throw error. Okay, that looks pretty straightforward. But what if we wanted a better example? Well, we know that it's a promise, so let's look it up. Let's head over to nodejs.dev/learn/understanding JavaScript promises. Here, if we scroll down a little bit, we'll find a section about consuming a promise, and we'll see a great example here of how to format that. All we'll need to do really is modify the .then here. If we get the version, .then version gets passed to the function of set version to version. If no version comes back, .catch error to console. How would we make this work for us? So here we're doing .then and then version. And then we're passing it to a function. Then if we get the version, we'll pass it to set version, and that will be version. Now, if we don't get version, we'll catch error. And that will be passed to console error. All right, let's make sure we have everything on our code as proper. Oh, I somehow deleted my next function. All right, now we can hit it with a save, Control S, and we can go back to our React app. Haha, look at that. Woot, woot. Yeah, don't forget the next function there. However, for demonstration purposes here, if you did what I did and you forgot that and you save it, you'll have an error here. Now click inside of here and Control Z and then Control S to revert your changes, and it will go right back. We created a connection instance of the connection class using the new constructor. We then called getVersion on that connection instance. The docs state that connection.getVersion next returns a promise, so we chain .then and .catch to respectively handle the case where the promise is fulfilled and rejected. If the promise is fulfilled, we get a version object back. Then we can store in our functional component's local state using the set version exposed by the React hook use state. And as we showed, as soon as we saved the code, the React app loaded and showed our version number correctly. So we can go back to the Data Hub and click Verify on step 1. It is important to note that verification can take around 5 minutes, and the page will refresh automatically. Congratulations! You've just connected to the Solana Devnet, and we can see our API request right there. How cool is that? Next, we're going to use this connection instance every time we need to connect to Solana. We're going to want to move some tokens around, but first we'll need an account to hold tokens. That's what we'll do next. As always, if you had any trouble following this tutorial or simply want to discuss Solana or Data Hub tech, You can join us on our Discord in the link down below. I look forward to seeing you there, and until next time, happy coding.